think as organizations, if we think about people as assets or resources, it's transactional. We've got to move away from the transactional to the relationship. And we need to think about people as partners and the priorities in our business rather than assets or resources. Please welcome to the stage Jessica and Sam Corcoran.
Yay, thank you.
And we're back.
Hey!
Now, I've actually known these two gentlemen for a while now, particularly Sam.
A long time.
A long time.
Yeah.
And I think I can also say I have taught them both.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, absolutely have. Yep.
Which is pretty cool. So Sam, you do keynotes here in Australia and now globally. It's all back on again.
Yeah.
I'm very interested, and again, any questions that come, please put your hands up. I'm interested in the organisations that are having you come in now to speak to their people and inspire them. What are they asking for and why? But also, what are you noticing they're not asking for that they could be asking for?
So at the moment, what we know is the three of the hottest topics on the planet right now, and you can write this down if you like, yeah? The first one is still well-being. You know, there's still a lot of anxiety, fear, frustration out there and the like. So it's still a very hot topic, well-being, mental health, etc. The second one there is in and around the futuristic. You know, so anything at all when it does come to, when someone has an opinion on where the future is going in any industry. You know, business leaders across the world are quite uncertain about where the future is going. And so if you have an opinion on where the future is going, then that's also another really hot topic. And then the last one there is this whole area of, you know, back to work. You know, back in the office. You know, there's a real frustration out there, particularly with tech companies, finance companies, on actually getting them back inside the office. And so it's, I suppose that whole, like they're a little bit fearful that if we put too much pressure, then you're going to see the great resignation, you know, whole people are going to leave. Or, you know, and so there's a real mixture there. So for me personally, I get a lot, still get a lot on resilience, well-being, mindset and the like. I've got a few topics in and around that. And then, yeah, in and around the futuristic and storytelling stuff and the like. That's my sort of sweet spot.
Great. And for you, Craig, with the executives, but also L&D people who you're hearing from on a daily basis now, what are they coming to you for and why?
I think a big part we're seeing in these companies, one, yes, we want to be able to present and communicate effectively, but we're seeing a lot in the space of how can we go beyond the transactional and solutional to the relationship selling. That whole importance of connecting with people and building that relationship over a long period of time has become top priority in the companies we're dealing with. We're seeing a lot of that. And one of the aspects, one aspect I really love was having some huge conversations at the moment around what does the Emerging Leaders Program look like? People have really realized, even though we've seen it for a long time, that there isn't sufficient programs inside organizations for people that have moved up and become, you know, specialists in their areas and are transitioning into people managers and then into leaders. You know, yes, we spend lots of time training to become a specialist, and then someone taps you on the shoulder and goes, by the way, tomorrow you're leading a team of 10. No training. So there's a huge demand at the moment for emerging leaders programs.
Great. Now, I know that you also both run dispersed teams globally yourselves. And that was pre-COVID, but then it went even further during COVID. How do you balance that employee centricity with the business objectives? When it's globally dispersed, you can't observe them as such.
It's a great question. I think, look, you know, for us, we actually started Speakers Institute Corporate as its own entity in 2020. July 2020. 3 months into COVID, we started a brand new business. And the essence of that business, one, we're very client-centric, huge. But when it came to the team of people, we have a lot of contractors. They all have their own businesses. They work for different people. And we wanted to bring them into something different. And it was all about a sense of belonging, having someone there to be able to connect with on a regular basis and create that, because they weren't getting that in their own space. Most of them are, from a speaking coach or facilitating background. It's very lonely. You're a solopreneur. For those in the room, you will know what it's like. It's hard getting a response when you talk to the wall. And so that connection and sense of belonging took away any sense of we need to be employee-centric here. We want to be it became team centricity and client centricity connected together with human centricity. Probably the three of them came together really strong. And so, we really felt the power of that sense of belonging. And, I've met Tanya for the first time today. When we went to Singapore in February, we met all of them, or for me, I met all of them for the first time but one. I'm going to India next week to meet our team there. I've only met one before. But every time we've walked into that room, it's a big hug, and it feels like we have been knowing each other for not just the last sort of 6 months to 18 months. I feel like I've known them for my whole entire life. And it's because we create that space to not just have a meeting, or not just deliver a project, or not just do a piece of work. We create that space where they get to connect on a human level, find out a bit more about each other, understand each other. And I think that's been really crucial for us.
And just on that as well, Craig actually does that really well, actually meet people where they're at. And so, you've got some human beings that just simply want to get straight into the meeting. You've got other people that actually want a deeper connection and a nice fluffy conversation about how the weekend was or the like. But what we do know about, the three human fears in a way is, the fear of not being loved, the fear of not being good enough, and the fear of not belonging. So I actually think, to a certain extent, that actually is what a healthy workplace culture can bring, is that fear of, I belong here. I'm valued. I am good enough. And to a certain extent, people like my connection, that they love hanging out. Yeah. So if we can create that both, face to face, but particularly online, which is what you do really well, I think it's just the golden, it's the golden ticket.
I'm going to, sorry, Jessica, I'm going to keep this conversation going. And I really want to encourage you to think about this. For years, we've had the 6-month review, the 12-month review, which on their own are a complete waste of time. I'm going to be really honest. The complete waste of time. They are totally out of context. You might have a bit of information that might have been useful 12 months ago or even 3 months ago or yesterday, but not today. How can you create tight feedback loops of both things people are doing really well? How can you reward and recognize people for just the small things they do, but also be able to share with them and be open, but deliver it in a really effective way, opportunities to grow.
Good.
And that is something we get to do in our facilitating teams, for instance, is the 30 minutes afterwards is like probably a Navy SEALs debrief. And the team are not like, yes, they already know what they did well, but they want to hear what the perspective of everyone else is. They want to learn from each other. And because they're at a high level, they love it. So how can you create that in your environments every single day? That's my encouragement to you, my challenge, because that's where you get growth. It's not being the cheerleader. It's not talking to them until you have your performance review. It is how can you give that immediate feedback, so whether it's in a team, whether it's individual, so they know they feel valued and they know that when they do things well, but also what they can do to improve. Everyone wants to learn.
You can even have fun with that as well. There's in the gaming industry, they call it gamification. It's a 3-part. It's a challenge, reward, recognition. So you give people a challenge, they want to have that reward. But some people miss then that recognition piece. So that's why gaming industry, one of the fastest growing industries on the planet, is because, we as human beings, we love that challenge, we love the reward, and it could be gems or whatever it is, but then we have to be recognised the next level and the like, and we can do that in a culture.
Now, I think we've got a question here.
Oh, I love questions.
So you talked about post-COVID, you started a business, and you mentioned the impact that you've had around engaging with people remotely. Can you share with us some of the key things that you have implemented that have made the difference between being a virtual session and actually being a human engaging session that brings people along? So what did you do differently, or what did you learn over the last 2 years that makes that experience just as rewarding?
Okay. A couple of things. One, it comes down to how are you framed on the screen. All right, so literally, is it just your head? Is your face, can we see your eyes? Are you positioned? Like, for instance, every single time I'm on camera, you can see from my elbows up, so you can see gestures that are happening when I'm on camera. There's 1 inch from the top, my eyes are 1/3 down. I have the posture you see here right now and this calmness every single time. There is a consistency. It creates a safe space straight away because I'm calm and that energy comes across to other people. They can feel that. Then there's a little story. When Sam first asked me, he said, look, can you help out with our corporate part of the company? And I said, look, I'm working 70 to 80 hours a week right now, and I literally was. I was running 2 companies and CEO of Triathlon 3 days a week, and we were running a virtual online conference in June 2022. And so we put that on with about 8 weeks notice. And it was May, and I said, Sam, I've got 1 to 2 hours a week, because he had someone leaving. I can help out, 8 weeks' time, we'll talk. Had a couple of leads come in, 2 Fortune 100 companies. The emails I sent to them were 3 sentences. The first one was a human connection. I went and found out what was something they were doing and how could I give them recognition of it, or what was the connection that I'd seen and how could I make them feel good about something that we were connected with. The second one was give them some value. So shared some sort of value that could assist them in what they were doing. And then the third one was a call to action. 3 sentences. We landed both Fortune 100 companies in 2 weeks.
And we've still got them today.
3 sentences. And so I think that the important part of that is always starting with the human connection and making time for it. And so yes, I understand that there's the Zoom fatigue, but that's probably because people are taking on too many meetings, not the length of the meetings. And we need to think about how we use that time most effectively and why people need to belong to something first and feel a sense of connection and create that psychological safe space and permission before we go into talking about what we're talking in that meeting. Andrea, I'm sure you hope you don't mind. I met with Andrea today. We had a 1-hour conversation. We probably spent the first 15 minutes continuing to build our human connection in the relationship we have. That's the third time we have spoken. And I would say probably the next 30 minutes was me asking questions. I was very curious. And I just listened. And then we talked about what we could do together.
Does that answer your question, or were you also asking about the actual online training and how we do that to keep people engaged?
I think it answers part of the question, right? But there's some of the technical skills needed on an online training that I'd be interested as well.
We can share with you some information after this. Yeah, it's great. But thank you.
Good questions to ask, though. Yes. Are there any other questions from the floor? I have some more, but I'm happy to take some. Yes.
I've got a question. When you're thinking, you said the second was about adding value. Do you have like a go-to sort of like searchlight when you think, how am I going to add value now? A question you ask yourself, or, when you don't know what they need, but yet you're going to add value. Where do you pull the inspiration from?
A question sometimes can add value, because it allows them to think about something a bit deeper. So it doesn't always have to be, I'll give you a document, or I'll give you my book, or I'll give you my business card or whatever like that. Like, the value can actually be purely just a reflection piece. I know you're working in this area. What do you think about this?
Good. What he says.
Any other questions? Amazing. Maybe just one last one of both of you. Pre-COVID, the idea that people are our greatest asset was very much the mantra. Do you still believe that to be true? Has that shifted? Sam?
Me first.
Yeah, you're going on this one.
Look, without a doubt, you know, throughout my entire life, everything rises and falls on leadership. And so a healthy leader is a healthy team. An unhealthy leader is an unhealthy team. So for me, people is always going to be, you know, that key part of any organisation. It's not going to function otherwise.
I'm going to agree and disagree to this one a little bit. I don't think we should ever be talking about our people as assets or as resources. I think we should be looking at how we change this to people are our greatest priority. People are our greatest partners. I think as organisations, if we think about people as assets or resources, it's transactional. We've got to move away from the transactional to the relationship. And we need to think about people as partners and the priorities in our business rather than assets or resources.